Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. This is level A2, unit 17, lesson 1. In this lesson we're going to be learning how to describe places in a town using there is and there are in both the positive, negative, and question form. Okay, so where is this town and what is life like here? Is this a modern town? And do people use bikes or cars to get around? Do they walk? So think about those questions. What is life like here? Do you agree with these statements? This is an old town. Well, I would say yes. It looks like some of the buildings there are fairly old. The town has a large beach. So yes, looks like there is a beach. Tourists visit this place. Looks like some might. People live in tall apartment buildings. Well, they're not extremely tall. It looks like some of them might be 3 stories. There's maybe one tall building there in the background, but not a lot of tall buildings. And it is a noisy town. Well, maybe. Depends on how many tourists there are, but it doesn't look extremely crowded, and we don't see a lot of cars, so maybe it isn't very noisy. Okay, now match the sentences to the pictures. Tourists visit the Galapagos Islands. Many unusual animals live on the islands. You can swim, snorkel at many beaches, and most people fly to the islands. So tourists visit the Galapagos Islands. I would say that's picture D because she's there with her camera. Many unusual animals live on the islands. That would be C. The marine iguana is an unusual animal. You can swim and snorkel at many beaches. That would be picture A. And most people fly to the islands. That would be picture B. All right, now we're going to read about the town of Puerto Ayora on Santa Cruz. And Santa Cruz is one of the Galapagos Islands. First, let's take a look at the vocabulary words. So we have groceries, which are food items. Wildlife, animals in nature. Marine is describing things living near or in the sea. This is a picture of a sea lion and a picture of a tortoise. So you can either pause the video and read this text on your own, or you can follow along as I read. Puerto Ayora is a town with about 12,000 inhabitants, and it is a popular tourist destination. There are schools, hotels, restaurants, nightclubs, and stores that sell groceries, clothes, and souvenirs. There is also a post office and a hospital, but there isn't a movie theater. What makes Puerto Ayora an unusual place to visit? Well, this town is located on Santa Cruz, one of the Galapagos Islands. There are 18 main islands, and they are located about 870 miles or 1,400 kilometers off the coast of Ecuador. They are famous for their wildlife, and visitors have opportunities to see creatures such as giant tortoises, sea lions, and marine iguanas. There are also beautiful beaches, and the diving and snorkeling are amazing. So are these sentences true or false? There are about 12,000 people in Puerto Ayora. So that's true, about 12,000 inhabitants. There is a hospital. That's true. There's a large movie theater. That's false. So there is not a movie theater. There are beautiful beaches on the island. That's true. And you can see many wild animals. That is true. All right, now we'll read the final part of the text about Puerto Ayora. Again, let's look at the vocabulary words. Adopt means to accept as your own. Attitude is a way of thinking about something, and locals are people who live in the area. This is a picture of a ferry boat. This is a picture of Guayaquil, Ecuador. All right, again, you can pause the video and read on your own or follow along as I read. Carlos Sanchez and his family live in Puerto Ayora. They own a small grocery store. Because most of the groceries arrive by boat from the mainland, the prices are quite high, and at times finding basic groceries can be a problem. Sometimes there aren't any potatoes or tomatoes, sometimes there isn't any tea or coffee, but visitors soon learn to adopt the same relaxed attitude as the locals. Most visitors arrive by plane. There are flights from Guayaquil in mainland Ecuador. Then you need to take a bus and a ferry, followed by a taxi to reach Puerto Ayora. It's not easy to get to, but it's definitely worth the effort. All right, so read about the ideas of Sandra, Paulina, and Robert. So Sandra says, I would like to live in Puerto Ayora. I like to live in a peaceful and quiet town. Paulina says, I don't want to live in a place like Puerto Ayora. There aren't many people and there are too many animals. And Robert says, I'd love to live on Santa Cruz. There are beaches and unusual animals and there aren't a lot of people. All right, so using there is and there are. We use there is and there are to show that something exists or doesn't exist. So he says there are aliens, and he says there aren't any aliens. So look at these sentences. There's a school in my neighborhood. There isn't a movie theater in the town. There are some trees in the park. There aren't any cars on the road. There's coffee in the fridge. There isn't any milk in the jug. Right, so we have some different ways to use there is and there are with nouns. When you have a countable singular noun, you can say there's a hospital or there isn't a post office. With countable plural, there are some cars, there aren't any trees. And uncountable, there's some milk, there isn't any butter. So we generally use there is and there are with a, and, some, and any. And here are some more examples with there is and there are. There's a doctor at the hospital. There are 3 students in the classroom. There are many apples on the tree. All right, so now complete the sentences with there's, there isn't, there are, or there aren't. All right, at my school, there are many students. There isn't any milk in the fridge. In the morning, there are always many people on the bus. There's a clock on the wall. At 4 a.m., there aren't any cars on the road. In my neighborhood, there's a bridge over the river. There aren't any people in the room. There's a hotel in the center of town. On my street, there are many trees. I live far from the sea. There isn't a beach in my town. Right, now are these statements true or false based on this picture? There are a lot of tall buildings. Well, that is true. There aren't any mountains. Well, we see some mountains right there, so that one is false. There's a big red bus on the road. That's true. There are some clouds in the sky. Doesn't look like it, so that one is false. There aren't any houses. Well, those look like some houses right there, so that's false. There is a truck on the road. So we see a truck right there. That's true. And there are 2 yellow cars. That appears to be false. Right, so now use there is and there are to describe things and people in the picture. So, what is in the sky? There are three clouds, or there are two balloons, or there is the sun. Who is on the sidewalk? Um, there is a man jogging, there is a woman walking her dog, and then there's a man walking. So ask and answer some other questions about the things that you see in this picture. All right, now look at the questions and the answers. Is there a boat? No, there isn't. Are there some surfboards? Yes, there are. Is there a barbecue? Yes, there is. And are there any birds? No, there aren't. All right, so here we have the question form with there is and there are. So when it's countable singular, you could ask, is there a chair? And the possible answers would be yes, there is, or no, there isn't. With countable plural, are there any children? Yes, there are. No, there aren't. And uncountable, is there any coffee? Yes, there is. No, there isn't. So in a list of singular things, we use there is, not there are. There's a dog and a cat in the garden, but we would say there are some children and some adults in the park. All right, Margaret River, Western Australia. So we're going to look at the pictures. So this is the Margaret River area. This is the beach at Surfers Point, early morning on a vineyard, and the chocolate factory in Margaret River. So which ideas are probably true about Margaret River? Margaret River is a big city. Well, maybe if this is a picture of it, that may be true. There are a lot of things to do at night. Again, if this is a picture of Margaret City, that's probably true. Many tourists visit Margaret City, probably. There are a lot of beaches. It doesn't really show many beaches, so maybe not. The picture before, they talked about a chocolate factory, so that might be true. And it's not close to a big city. Can't really tell from these pictures. All right, so we're going to listen to Lawrence talk about his town, and which thing does he not talk about? He doesn't talk about one of these things, so listen for the one he does not say.
My name is Lawrence, and I live in a place called Margaret River. It's a small town, about 3 hours south of Perth in Western Australia. It's very popular with tourists, and there are a lot of hotels and restaurants in the area. There isn't much nightlife, though. There are some bars with live music, but there aren't any nightclubs, and most places close early. There are a lot of great surf beaches in this area. If you've never tried surfing before, there are schools that offer surfing lessons. Or, if you know how to surf, you can just rent a surfboard. There are about 130 kilometers of coastline, so you have a lot of choices about where to surf. One of my favorite places is Surfers Point, but the waves are usually pretty big, so it's not for beginners. Margaret River is also famous for its winemaking. There are a lot of wineries in the area, and most of them offer visitors the chance to taste their wine for free. Some also give you the chance to look around and learn more about the winemaking process. One other attraction is known as the Chocolate Factory. Visitors have the chance to see how the chocolate is made, and there are also free tastings. Not surprisingly, it is always very busy during school holidays.
All right, so he talked about everything except the kangaroos. He did not mention kangaroos. All right, so now we'll listen again and we will complete the sentences as he goes along.
My name is Lawrence, and I live in a place called Margaret River. It's a small town about 3 hours south of Perth in Western Australia. It's very popular with tourists, and there are a lot of hotels and restaurants in the area. There isn't much nightlife, though. There are some bars with live music, but there aren't any nightclubs, and most places close early. There are a lot of great surf beaches in this area. If you've never tried surfing before, there are schools that offer surfing lessons. Or, if you know how to surf, you can just rent a surfboard. There are about 130 kilometers of coastline, so you have a lot of choices about where to surf. One of my favorite places is Surfers Point, but the waves are usually pretty big, so it's not for beginners. Margaret River is also famous for its winemaking. There are a lot of wineries in the area, and most of them offer visitors the chance to taste their wine for free. Some also give you the chance to look around and learn more about the winemaking process. One other attraction is known as the Chocolate Factory. Visitors have the chance to see how the chocolate is made, and there are also free tastings. Not surprisingly, it is always very busy during school holidays.
All right, so now you can maybe write a dialogue about your park or your town. Asking questions like, is there a park? Are there tall buildings? Is it near the beach? Is there an airport? So just write down some sentences about the town that you live in. Well, that brings us to the end of today's video. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you have any questions, leave those for me in the comments and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching. Bye.